Yeah.
So can I know the best way, what are the best ways to deploy the microservices? Even I work with two organizations like, so can I know like which one is the best way to go ahead with deploy the microservices?
Okay. So when we talk about deployment of microservices, okay, that's a good point. So uh, what usually happens is that I have not worked on Azure or GCP, but I know sometimes I participated in some discussions on them. Primarily, all my experience comes from the AWS side. So whenever we talk about AWS, so what happens when companies have to at the very starting decide on what they have to do in terms of deployment? Okay, so there are various there's Kubernetes, but
My question.
please go ahead.
So actually, I raised my question like the what is the best way to deploy the microservices? So there is many ways like we can directly deploy into the whatever the respected service, or else we can go ahead with infrastructure like many whatever the respected containerization, or else we can go ahead with directly servers, and which approach is best and which is like maintenance and everything has to be easy and everything has to be proper.
Right. So see, like I said, when an organization thinks of it, they have think from a cost perspective, maintenance perspective as well. Okay, not just
Yes.
the technology part of it. I mean, technology obviously exists in terms of cost, in terms of maintenance, skill. What is the way the organization is thinking? The organization has a strategy for GCP, organization has a strategy for Azure, or organization has a strategy for AWS. So what is the way, the direction they want to move ahead? Now, if it is allowed as a, let's say, uh, you are on a product and it has got various sub modules. Let's say the UI part of it is different. The backend purchase system might be the order system might be different. Inventory management is different. So whatever it is, the kind of things when you're getting it, each team is allowed to take their own decision. Now, when this is going to happen, such kind of thing. So what usually happens in terms of cost and maintenance, you still have to think about it, cost and maintenance, but you can um, yeah. So generally, what best combination which most of the companies would use is AWS. They would use Docker. Okay, and if Kubernetes part they would decide. Okay, now see Docker is something which is a container. You all of you know standard, which will allow you to standardize your deployment so that if you make changes or if you have versions, they can be maintained across. Okay, and the second part, the Kubernetes is for geographical. You can say the same thing, but when applied to geography. Okay, like a Docker cluster, a swarm of Docker. Docker swarm is a different technology. Kubernetes can be used. So when you use Kubernetes, geographic distribution. Let's say your let's say retail internet shop is deployed in United States. It's deployed in India. It's deployed in Malaysia, and possibly deployed somewhere in Africa, whatever. So now, when it's such a deployment strategy, it's better to use kind of Kubernetes mechanism for this geographic kind of distribution, that kind of things. So at those levels, in terms of cost, in terms of maintenance, in terms of the problem, what is scale of the problem, that way you can decide whether you want to use Kubernetes or not. Docker, obviously, I'm sure most of the companies would say that you want to go ahead and use Docker, and how you want to use Docker, and which cloud you want to use to. So those things, and then combine that with your CI/CD pipeline in terms of environments. Like let's say when you are going to push it to production, Jenkins can do it transparently and push it to an AWS EC2 for deployment. So those kind of things, decisions, those kind of tools is what you will consider when you're saying that what decision I want to make for organization. Um, yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
And one more thing, like when compared to security things and all, so right now we are using standalone servers. Like when if we move to the Kubernetes, is it more secure because of so this application and all comes to the complete finance background, right? So it requires even compared to cost management, we require more security. So is it more securable to move to the Kubernetes?
Well, that's a very open question. See, even if you deploy it on a, let's say if you don't use any of these container technologies, if you're going to see, the security is two part. One is in terms of this, you can say hacking, or in terms of access to the application. Other is in terms of, you can say, inter services, or authentication, authorization, and the actual, you can say, the inter-service communication. So all those, and obviously database and data. So in any case, whatever you do, you will be under threat of just like, let's say there's something like session hijacking, or let's say simple things like SQL injection. So all those things will still be open. But when you're talking of, let's say, hacking mechanisms, possibly there's a different layer that is added, which is Kubernetes. And whether it is going to provide more security, I don't have any yes or no to it. Okay, but the simple thing is there's one more layer that is added now, Kubernetes, which is there. And whether it is, see, we use encryption across. Okay, so when you're going to use Kubernetes for deployment, is one more layer. Now, what Kubernetes security, whatever they provide at every pod level for this communication, is going to be the one which decides at the level when somebody wants to hack into your system, wants to gain access, whether it's going to lead to more security. But I do not have an answer yes or no to that question. Okay, so you think from that perspective. Now there's one more layer, Kubernetes. Okay, now if you go for such attacks, which are like man in the you can say gaining access to data directly, breaking into systems, all those kind of things would still exist. Okay, but I don't have the answer as yes or no. Okay, it's yes and no. It's that one more level will be added, and if done correctly, it might make a idea of breaking in possibly a little more tougher.
So if so anyways, like all the data will, like whatever the application will be there in the server, right? So if anyways we are planning to move to the microservice, what I'm expecting, like anyways you are saying like move to the Kubernetes is the best option, but we can do directly deployment we are in private server, right? We can do.
See, you don't need any AWS or any. You don't need. You see, if you go to simplest form, an organization can have its own data center. A very orthodox, a very old style of deployment. They have it their own. You can very easily, you can say, a secure Linux server provided by your IT team, where you go ahead and deploy your system, your microservices. Okay, the system that at a very basic level, it has got a static IP. Okay, you configured your domain, you've done your DNS correctly, where it redirects your system, and you can just run it. And you can, if required, you can kind of build a cluster out of it through various other mechanisms. Okay, so but otherwise, at a very simple level, you can do deployment in any way. Company says, I don't want a cloud, I don't want any container, I will handle my own deployment, I don't want to spend money on the cloud, I just will use my own server, deploy it, take care of all the security concerns, take care of all the DevOps concerns from system admin concerns in a very like old-fashioned way, like all within my own data center. So that kind of thing can be done. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Sumit, one other thing, because like most of the team members comes with a non-microservices or non-Java background, especially our QA folks or the operations folk.
Okay.
So I think we need to consider that as well while discussing the topics.
Okay.
And
Yeah. So see, well, whether Shweta, like when we are going to go ahead in the future, like day 3 onwards, now it's conceptual level. So it's all going to be very general things. It's things that anybody who has done any kind of software development, whether it's testing, whether it's DevOps or scripting, generally anybody who's participated in software development will be able to grasp. But when we move to Java world from day 3, what is the plan for those folks? Like, are they going to participate or just be there to just understand what is going on, like in terms of generic?
Sumit, I would say let them try. If they are not able to, then let them view it. That would be the best thing to do, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, guys. So before, this is the kind of last slide that I have for the introduction. This is the introduction. Day 1 content has to start. So remember that. I mean, me and you, both of us, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, but involve me and I learn. So that is what just now Shweta and I was discussing. Involve me and I learn. So try to grasp the concepts which you'll remember. Okay, and involve yourself and learn. Continue the involvement by yourself on your systems, by your own learning. Okay, through your own reference material. And yeah, so to build the energy, fast and seat belts, open your brain, and let's board the Microservices rocket. Okay, and embrace knowledge as far as possible. Embrace whatever you get on this journey, and make it interactive. Okay, with that, I am ending this intro thing. I will send across this PDF to you, the PDF for the presentation. We'll move to the day